Israel continues to pound Hezbollah by bombing Beirut and pushing deeper into Lebanon, advancing towards Wazzai River even as the ceasefire status remains unclear. With fresh attacks on the pro-Iran militant group, civilian deaths have been mounting and the Lebanon government finds itself scrambling for solution amid IDF bombings. Israel has flagged Hezbollah's misuse of civilian infrastructure. IDF says that Hezbollah is using civilians in Lebanon as human shields. The crisis in the region is deepening. In fact, Beirut has been struck hard. Things aren't better in the southern tip of Lebanon either, where people no longer have their homes, apartments destroyed, agriculture land ruined. In a far cry from the group's velocity, Hezbollah's condemnation of Israel's renewed aggression on the Gaza Strip implored the United Nations, Security Council and Human Rights Organization to halt the renewed fighting through diplomatic and popular pressure. But it all seems of no use. Amid all this, Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has called for a return to 1949 Armistice Agreement, a decade-old truce that once ended open warfare but never delivered lasting peace. First, let's begin by understanding what is the 1949 agreement. In fact, it was signed between Israel and 4 neighboring Arab states, including Egypt, Jordan, Syria and Lebanon. In fact, the agreement marked the formal end of hostilities following the 1948 Arab-Israel War, also known as Israel's War of Independence. From Lebanon, the deal established the Blue Line, a demarcation separating Israel from Lebanese forces, and in fact it was monitored by United Nations observers. Israel withdrew from the occupied areas in the southern Lebanon, but the agreement was never meant to be a permanent border settlement, only a ceasefire. Now it is also important to understand why is Lebanon revisiting the 1949 agreement now. In a recent interview to Al Jazeera, Lebanon President argued that returning to the 1949 framework could help stabilize the volatile Israel border situation. Clashes between Hezbollah and Israeli forces remain a constant threat and has escalated unmanageably since October 2023 when IDF-Hamas war started. The interview also hints on probably fed up with the Hezbollah's activities that are leaving Lebanese to face Israel's fury. In the interview, Aoun further said that the Lebanese army has uncovered tunnels and weapon depots near the Litani River, suggesting efforts to curb unauthorized militant activity. Just to put things in perspective, Israel still occupies 5 border points, preventing full Lebanese military deployment in the south. Aoun also supports forming a joint military and civilian committees to strengthen border security. In fact, the agreement's lingering impact on today's conflict is also important to understand. While the 1949 deal halted large-scale fighting, it failed to resolve core disputes, leaving door open for future conflicts. With no lasting peace, Lebanon's south became a hotspot for militant groups, including Hezbollah, which now dominates the entire region. The Sheba farms and other contested zones remain flashpoints, with both sides accusing the other of violations. Not to forget that the UN peacekeeping mission tasked with monitoring the Blue Line has struggled to prevent any sort of fights over there. Will the 1949 agreement work today? Well, that's a pertinent question. Well, this is not just the first time that Lebanon has proposed to reinstate the 1949 truce deal, and Israel in the past has dismissed the proposal, insisting that Lebanon must first disarm Hezbollah before any sort of negotiations. Meanwhile, experts warn that without broader political solutions, a return to the 1949 terms may just be a symbolic at the best. The 1949 agreement was a ceasefire, not a peace deal. And unless both sides address the Hezbollah's role and Israel's occupation claims, history will repeat itself. As Hezbollah grapples with economic collapse and political instability, Aoun's call highlights a desperate search for stability. But whether a 75-year-old truce can provide answers still remains uncertain. In fact, with both sides entrenched, the 1949 agreement serves as a reminder of unfinished business and a warning that without compromise, the Lebanon-Israel conflict may remain frozen in time.